Hey, I guess let me say welcome. Let me say welcome to listening to the land. Um, we have an amazing group of people here to be sharing with each other right now. Um, I would like to I would like to share something that Maurice just shared today about the circle. Um, um, join us for a soft introduction to kindness and joy with relationship to the land, and to just let that settle in for a moment. I think what we're going to do, just a little, this is a little welcome. We'll have a little bit of a framing and a reading of a book, not a whole book, just a passage from a book, that Chantal will do. And what I'm going to do in the chat so that everyone has it is, all of the participants in the circle, I'm going to put names and your websites and if you have LinkedIn profiles or all of that there, so we know we know who each other are, I believe, um, and go from there. It's a little bit different. It's a continuation. This is part of our LCARE. It's part of a continuation of the first, well, this year, the 2025's first Connectathon, the last equinox. There was From Soil to Soul, that some of you were in there. There was Marina and Maurice and Thomas. Also Chantal, there we river water, women and the rivers that run through us. And then we had regenerating land and community. And earlier today, kind of related to this, um, hours 5 and 6? We had healing ourselves in community. How do you show up for yourself to show up in community? Because all of you are in community. So, many of us need what are something, and so much had to do with nature and connecting to the land and just practices, and then people sharing their works in the community. Can be helpful anywhere, whether some said urban jungles or just out in the middle, just with the mountains, doesn't matter. So with that, Chantal, let me please pass over to you.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Last night, Kim and I were sharing a conversation about today and what we imagined unfolding, or what kind of space to hold or create for all of you today. And I just had this, oh, I need to grab this book. And I went and got it. And it's Kim is connected to Joseph Rael, and it's Sound. And I pulled it off my shelf, and it was actually, there was already a little spot where I had finished reading. So I opened it up to where I had been reading and read the first little bit. And it speaks so much to, I think, part of like what we're here for, or I feel like it sets a good tone for us. And so I'm going to read it, and I invite you to perhaps put your feet on the ground if you can reach, place your feet flat on the earth. Notice your breath, maybe close your eyes, and just witness what emerges as you listen. So technology is moving so fast because a couple of 100 years ago, we cut down too many trees. How would cutting too many trees affect technology? The metaphor, or the vibration of greatness, is connected to trees. When we cut the trees, they fall to the earth. Like the feminine energy that falls from the heavenly sphere into the biosphere, where it manifests new material forms. The trees go from the vertical to the horizontal plane. This causes a different energy in the biosphere, creating more things at a faster rate. The trees have the sky energy, and when the sky energy falls, it jumps back up and it falls back down. It awakens receptivity and creates activity. As the trees hit the earth and bounce, the culture becomes more active. We create more technology, the population booms, wars erupt. All those things come from frenetic energy caused by the cutting down of trees. Indian thinking says, when you do something, be careful, because what you do is going to have side effects. It is not just cutting down trees, it is changing the whole energetic configuration of the culture. And that is why we do ceremonies. They can contribute to the shifts in consciousness for a culture within a geography. When we do ceremonies, we are working on the energies. The true visionary knows that the original idea of any ceremony came from a vision. The vision told the person who received it everything that needed to be done in the ceremony. So there was absolutely no guesswork. When I get a vision, I'm told exactly, step by step, how to do it. And if I don't do it right, then there are angels or beings that come from the other side and tell me I made a mistake. Once you agree to be a visionary, the above beings give you a vision and you have to do it. You can't say no. Once we have decided to come to this earth, we have to live up to certain criteria, because what we are doing has a direct connection to what is going on in the other dimensions. Each of us came here as the result of a vision. The planet had a vision. And as a result of that, you happened and I happened. Once the planet had a vision, then we came as a result of divine calling, divine longing. So we agreed to come down. And by the time we were born, we had already been given a place on the planet. We were born to fulfill that vision. All the trials and tribulations are exercise. Their purpose is to make us the best possible conduits to move energy through the world, to enhance creation. We come here to manifest. We come to live in the world of illusion, to be in states of awe. I'm going to end there and invite us to take another deep breath. And a question that we'd like to ask, and each of you, is, and all of us together. So it's, what vision does the planet have for us coming together today? So if we are here to fulfill a vision that the planet has had, what is it that we're here to contribute to that as a whole? So the folks that are here to share during this session, what are we collectively joining here today for? What piece do you have to contribute? What's emerging within you? And we'll just listen. So Lucille, you have, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hi there. As you said, that the first and only thought that came to my mind was to experience heaven on earth and to embody that.
Thank you. And we'll just allow, so Kim, do you want to talk about the dialogue process? Or
Yeah, I can do that, but I also just really want to make note. I want to make sure it's perfectly clear that the question picked us. The book picked us. This was not anything that was planned. And the connection to, beautiful painted arrow doesn't know that I'm connected. A lot of people I know are quite connected. And I was thrilled that he could be in this way part of our circle today. So I'm also considering him here today. He's probably in Colorado. But yeah, so the dialogue process that we have, and we'll just go the people in the circle. Um, this, well, share from what comes from within, leave space, leave space to let the dialogue move through and around us. And it's not, the questions being asked are not any, let's solve any problems question, like, why are you here? But maybe we know why we're here. If you know why I'm here, I'm happy to hear. That would be nice. Would be really nice. And I also want to make note of Thomas Rain Crow. He's a very notable poet, and it just so happened that a book came out of his this week. And it's can we just hear just a little bit about this book, like especially considering what conversation we flowed from into this hour, just about the part about connecting with nature and the imperative of that right now with Earth. I feel like maybe Earth wants us to hear that.
Right. Well, I'm happy to be here, obviously, and this is kind of a prelude to your suggestion. I just want to say that back in the late 1970s, I was living in California, and I was part of the bioregional movement there in California, which was one of the first bioregions in the country. And we saw this scenario coming that we're talking about, that we've heard the discussions all day today about if we don't do something, we're gonna suffer. And we saw that a long time ago. So in the late 70s and early 80s, I moved back to North Carolina, where I was raised here in the Smoky Mountain, Appalachian, Southern Appalachians, and lived off the grid for 4.5 years. Because we decided in California that bioregions were necessary and that environmental communities were necessary. So we created a bioregion here in Western North Carolina called the Katua Bioregion. And we created a journal, a bioregional journal called the Katua Journal, which was published for several years. So on the basis of that foundation and that experience, I wrote a book called Zorro's Field, My Life in the Appalachian Woods. And it's really a chronicle of my time for those 4.5 years living off the grid and thinking about how we can survive and continue in the ways that we heard people talking about in the previous talk. Simplicity, as Alexander said, is key. So 25 years later, or 20 years later, this book just came out this week. It's called New Natives. It's becoming Indigenous in a time of crisis and transition. And it's a collection of essays and poems, and it addresses the current state of affairs that we're dealing with and how we might move through those and get to a more self-sufficient and long-term life here on the planet. So what I'd like to do is just briefly and quickly read a couple of short passages from the introduction preface to the book, just to give you an idea of where this is all coming from related to the natural world and moving forward. So
Thomas, can we maybe wait a little bit with that while can we get the dialogue moving first and then maybe bring that in a little bit?
whatever you want to do, yeah, whatever.
Okay. Thanks. We'll come back.
Yes, go ahead, Marty. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm a little stunned by the silence in the group. I think that we all here know and feel and have experienced the necessity for humans to live in relationship with the land. To us, people like us, it's a given. And I think one of our jobs is to articulate it, not to one another, but to other people. And there is such a tendency in Western culture to veer off the track. We start talking about this and we end up sounding like humans are apart from the land and we're going to do something for the land and we're going to fix things. And we forget that we're part of the system. I mean, it's so obvious and it sounds ridiculous to say it, but it's like Janine Benyus said, nothing exists outside of a system. And humans, Western humans, have completely forgotten that. We don't organize our lives that way. We don't organize our government, our education, or anything to raise our children to know, to experience that they're part of a system and everything they do has an effect. And so this, I would love to see the conversation start to blossom, ways we can articulate this, experiences we can bring to people. I'm just thinking of a little video I saw on LinkedIn that I forwarded in my own LinkedIn thing. It's a video, like a 30-second video of a blue whale from a drone shot overhead. And you know how big those things are. And off to the side, there's a tiny little boat just for scale. And it's just 30 seconds. And somebody had asked me recently what consciousness has to do with climate change. And those of you who know me know that it's really hard to shut me up, but that left me speechless. And so I said, I found this little thing on LinkedIn and I reposted it. And I said, if I'd had that video on hand, I would have just said, watch this and then tell me how you feel. Because I think in waking up this, there's knowledge in our bodies that we're part of the system, but we have to experience it. We have to feel it. And waking up that feeling, we have to find ways to ignite awe, the state of awe. Because when we are in awe, there's no question. There's absolutely no question. We need some education at that point, but I think instead of figuring and reasoning and planning and strategizing, at least a bunch of us should be in the business of igniting awe out in the world. And that would really, really help. I could go on, but I'm going to try to stop and make space.
And it is a little different. I mean, it is a little different in like the dialogue circle. And I mean, like, and with Thomas, I happen to know Thomas really well. And I know, and Thomas will say the words just move through him, right? That's where the poetry comes from. So we do hear the poetry, for sure. But, and also whatever's coming through all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Marty, when you mentioned,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
You mentioned the igniting awe, and it reminded me of like this. Right now I'm looking at like surfacing connections, surfacing relationships. And I feel like it's related where it's like, wow, I'm I'm here because of, I'm being supported and cared for by these people across the world who are making my food, and by these animals who are migrating, that I'm never going to see, but their fact that they exist is supporting me in existing right now. And I feel like that, what the feelings, and also the practice of seeing and appreciating those invisible relationships that are, I feel like they've been buried underground, and it's part of surfacing those and practicing witnessing the I guess the web of life that we're all held by and part of. And
Yeah, yeah. And, for myself, I would like to take it further. For all of us, I'd like to take it further than that. Yeah, we have to experience how we are connected into the world. And I would like to take the whole human conversation away from the I, the personal identity. It's not, I mean, it is true that all of these relationships make it possible for us to be here and healthy. But if our awareness stays on ourselves, we haven't gone very far. I think it's the next step is to put our awareness out into the world and keep it there. So we're always aware of the larger forces, and we're always listening to the larger forces, and we get our attention off of ourselves. And that brings us into a completely new sense of self in a different dimension of consciousness. And in that bigger state, naturally collective, and we problem solve in different ways, and we take care of our environment in different ways. It's a shift in where awareness is working in consciousness. And so I think the giving over to larger forces is the next step, really. I mean, climate change is larger forces on the move, and we can't turn the clock back. So we have to know how those forces work and learn to work with them. That's the only way we're going to find new solutions for humans living within the system, because that's what has to be solved. The weather doesn't have to be solved. Humans and how we live within the big system, that's what we need solutions for. So yeah, but you're right. It's for Western people, those connections, we're not aware of them. They seem invisible, but they're there at the level of energy. And when the weather responds to us and brings a storm that's bigger than it used to be, that's speech to us. But we've forgotten what the speech means. We've forgotten that language of nature. So listening to the land is teaching us. It's not just taking something in. The land is teaching us how to respond and how to participate. And these connections are two-way streets. So we have a lot of educating to do of Western people. But yeah, it's in that energetic level. Yeah. Ubuntu. Alexander, that was great.
Now that the women have taken up most of our time here, I me, Chantal, Marti, Lucille. I would love to hear Maurice and Alexander and Thomas. Oh, Marina.
Thank you for the opportunity. I spoke with the ancestors. I speak with the ancestors. The ancestors are asking us to go back into ritual. They are asking us to repeat ceremonies that have been forgotten. They are asking us to go to the waters. They're asking us to ask for forgiveness. The earth is the greatest forgiver. All we must do is listen. And as we listen, there's an opportunity to receive clear instructions. We are aware of what the instructions are already, but we're clouded in our actions because of distractions. The ancestors have asked me to bless you all with peaceful rest. The ancestors have asked me to share that there is concern. However, our time with the ancestors is surely near. The joyful reunion is possible only with compassion. The joyful reunion is only possible with kindness. If we return to the ancestral ways, the tribal ways, the systematic ways, the ritual ways, we will begin to find solutions to the microplastics, solutions to the migratory patterns that have been offset over the past 20 years, solutions for our water issues, solutions for our air issues, and most importantly, solutions for our egotistical disagreements. The ancestors have spoken, I have listened, and I have shared. I thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Maurice. It's a beautiful book by Baird Baylor called The Other Way to Listen. It's a children's book. Everyone should read it. Learning to listen again. We're not only being spoken to all the time, but we are spoken into existence ourselves. A colleague of mine, David Price, talks about entering into dialogue. I love that term. It's the sacred dialogue. Dialogue. It's a different sense to it. And it perhaps helps us relearn Gaia talk. Because Gaia talk, all the time, we are embedded in Gaia talk. We are Gaia talk. The question is, are we available? It's not a matter of can we hear it, but can we feel it? Can it speak us into interbeing? Because Gaia talk never speaks alone. It's always weaving. 99% of Gaia talk is listening. The land speaks and I am silent. Oof. But how is it also that we are the speech of the land, as so many peoples will say, as Marti would say? We are the speech of the land. Thomas Berry had this beautiful book, The Dream of the Earth. Yeah, we can imagine, what could be this? But we are the dream of the earth. We are the earth dreaming. This is a time not of keynote speakers, but of keynote listeners. And the best keynote listeners there are the trees. Ooh, wow, what we can learn. Poof. Yeah. So to human well, how do we human well? And here I'm going to say a few things that I think Marty would be much better off saying. But I'm going to try. I'm going to say a few things. There are these traditional roles. We've talked about at the beginning of this Connectathon being bridge walkers, right? Bridging worldviews, bridging across peoples, bridging our understandings. Very important. And then there are the skywalkers, which you may sort of remember from like Star Wars. Nah, that's not what it's about. But they bring the spirit in to engagement. The skywalkers hold all of the patterns that allow the weather. The weather, that's us. That's us. Right? It's that stage. And then there's something which I'm hearing, Maurice, you calling on. It's the ghost walkers. The ones who walk with the ancestors, because they walk with us now. Now. Can we hear them? But it also means that they are the future generations walking with us because we're their ancestors. So being in that listening, and it's not fantasy. It's that imaginal space, different from the imagination space, which is great too. But the imaginal space is the field that emerges our coherence. It's the story of life. It's Pachamama. And how are we the imaginal discs becoming imaginal selves, becoming together. Marty, if you want to clarify anything that I may have made a little confusion around, I'm sure you can.
No, it was so poetic. It was really something. But it made me think of something parallel, which is a tradition in the Andes in initiation. You're taught about your energy body, and that energy body gets initiated with all kinds of transmissions. But that energy body has a luminous umbilical cord. Just imagine you live inside this big energy thing, and there's an umbilical cord that comes out from the belly of your energy body, and it goes into the earth. And it goes with you wherever you go. And it's always there, but it's not always lit up. And what they say, they teach you how to light that thing up, how to put your awareness, your love and intent through that umbilical cord into the earth and experience that cord rooting and growing stronger in the earth, and the earth responding to you, sending you all kinds. There are many different categories of life force and bioenergetic force that you get fed. And you start to root like a tree, and you grow taller in this life, and you sprout a canopy that flowers and creates fruits and seeds that drop to the ground and start their own cycle of rooting and blossoming. And this is one way to understand our relationship in the big scheme of life. But one of the things that learning how to light up that cord does is there'll be a moment when you feel that your whole energy body suddenly at the belly area suddenly opened up somehow. And you will have this experience of knowing your coordinate in the big weaving of luminous lines that connects everything to everything in the cosmos. And when we have that depth of experience of belonging, which comes from the earth, it gets triggered by the earth in us. When we belong that deeply, then we know how to behave. We just find ourselves living differently. We find ourselves respecting one another. We don't have to make it a to-do list. Literally, our behavior changes because we're connected differently. And I think this is one of the keys of listening to the land and responding with the wisdom that the land gives us. We have to realize how we're connected. We have to find that experience. And that's another way to say we're spoken into being by Pachamama. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I'm wondering, Thomas, can we invite you back in right now? Not that you have not been in, but you have that very deep connection. There is no separation. And I know part of that came, not all of it, but part of that came from when you were living with no other humans. But whatever you want, I want you to share whatever you would like to share.
Okay. Always being kind of an introvert and a fairly shy person, I've found my voice in my writing. So when I write, I can really express myself in terms of what I really wanted to say. So if you'll indulge me in just a few minutes, just to read from the preface from the new book, New Natives. I think I can respond to what we've been talking about here. So I'll do this real quickly. And it says, yes, we are individuals and have, if we are lucky, the freedom to roam and choose where we live, how and where we live. But even so, we don't live in a vacuum. We live among other people and wild critters and landscapes, whether we acknowledge it or not. And each one of those landscapes, those environments, those places influences and affects where we go, what we do, and who we become. Our contemporary wisdom keepers are everywhere. If we are open and attuned to them and are striving to help us to not only know ourselves, but to learn how to live together and in harmony with our identified natural and human communities. In other words, we are going to need to, as the Beatles song implies, come together. A song that rings out today with its more than pertinent title and urgent message, come together right now. We must come together with reciprocated love, as Barry Lopez names it, and with now, meaning today. There is no time to waste. And so I'd just like to close with a poem. It's called The Aristocracy of the Wild. It's not the money, it's the wilderness that turns me on. It's not the fame, it's the songs I have learned from birds. It's not the sex, it's the orgasm of a windy day. The taste of wild grapes, the smell of honeysuckle, the sound of thunder in the hills. This is my inheritance, the things that have made me rich, the blue blood in my veins. It's not the prestige or the privilege. It's not the mansions. It's the time I have spent in caves. It's not the power. It's the cougar's call of caution, the bleating of lambs, the lilacs, the asters, the lyre-leaf sage. This is my aristocratia, the things that gave me heart, the nobility of my pale skin. It's not the class or the style. It's not the authority. It's the river after torrential rain. It's not the elegance. It's the genius of diversity, the community of ants, the comb of the bees, the nest of hummingbirds. These. So, Shell, that poem kind of describes my experience living off the grid and here in this rural place where I live here in the Tuckasegee community along the Tuckasegee River. and growing my own food and heating my own house with wood, and here we are with computers. Isn't that a paradox? So, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Thomas, I think that extraordinary poem says what we've been exploring. It's not the things or the ideas, it's the experience. Mhm. Yeah. And I was thinking, I'd love to know what people think about this. I always think about the world that we live in that's got way too many people in it. And a lot of those people will never get a chance to be in actual wild nature. That's how many people we have. So what are we going to do about that? How do we teach people who are city bound, urban bound about nature? And I have no answers to that, but what it makes me think about is a story that I heard probably decades ago. One of the astronauts we sent up into space, his job was to tend some little tiny corn plants, little kernels that had germinated and sent up little green sprouts. And they wanted to see if human stuff grew in space. And I guess he collected some data, but he said his big experience was the awe he experienced in tending life. And that gave me hope that we can, even if people are city bound and don't have a way to really experience land and nature, there is a way, because nature is everywhere and we're part of nature, and we should get a lot more creative about this. And sometimes with my own students, I give them a required exercise, which is to go buy some seeds at the hardware store and get a little paper cup like we used to do in grade school and grow something from seed. But they have to do it in a cup inside. They have to get so focused on nature and seeds and the growth process that they can grow something in a paper cup, and it changes everybody.
Some of the school systems here in North Carolina have created courses as part of their curriculum for taking the students out into nature and studying what they observe, and studying their experience. So and that's growing with the schools here in North Carolina. Most of it is down east in populated areas, but they're taking the kids out and having that experience. So at least that's happening in an organized way.
Yay, that's we need to celebrate that one. Yeah, that's great, Thomas. Thanks.
I was thinking, first of all, I'm also appreciating the silences that we have in this hour.
Mm.
There are lots of them. More, and they're comfortable ones. They're pregnant with possibility. What will they give birth to?
Yeah.
That listening into the moment. I do think that the most important things cannot be put into words. I love the word ineffable, because it's a word about things you can't say. Little paradox. Ineffable, the things that are ineffable, the mysteries. That's so important.
Yeah.
To try to figure it all out, it's to reduce it to some numerical quantity, to some factual, cold, sterile datum. Nora Bateson has her whole warm data labs. I love that, warm data. But it's the poetry that Thomas that you've shared. And in this, I want to just read this one from Mary Oliver. It just goes exactly with what both Marti and Thomas were talking about right now. So Mary Oliver, little poem she has called "Teach the Children." She says, "Teach the children. We don't matter so much. The children do. Show them daisies and the pale hypatia. Teach them the taste of sassafras and wintergreen. The lives of the blue sailors, mallow, sunbursts, and moccasin flowers. And the frisky inkberry, lamb's quarters, blueberries. And the aromatic ones, rosemary, oregano. Give them peppermint to put in their pockets as they go to school. Give them the fields and the woods and the possibility of the world salvaged from the lords of profit. Stand them in the stream, head them upstream, rejoice when they learn to love this green space they live in, its sticks and leaves, and then the silent, beautiful blossoms. Attention is the beginning of devotion.
Beautiful.
I have a couple of things I would like to share. The first is, so Mary Oliver is from where Maurice and I are from here in Cleveland. Just so you know, she grew up in Maple Heights. And I want to mention for those who may not know Maurice, he's a real urban agriculture pioneer. In spaces, you know, abandoned parking lots, talking about growing. He could, you know, growing, my gosh, what changes when we're part of growing like this. There's so much. Obviously, Maurice has been listening for, it feels like, for a long time. But I also wanted to say I really appreciate that poem, because we're also here. We're here and we can talk about this and it's really nice. But we're also outside of here, at least for me, and sometimes where I am, it is not easy, right? And in this polarized, charged atmosphere, just on personal story, that poem really resonates, because this connection, this deep connection with nature is not that old for me. It's like a few years old. But yet, you know, I learned, Chantal knows this, I learned from a conversation with my dear mother yesterday, who's very in this polarized atmosphere, you know, that she doesn't know if Kim has a God or any God, because all Kim says is something about the water or the trees. Like, there's no, I mean, she really, like the stuff that she was saying, it's like it's become that she doesn't know me. And as a former, you know, I studied advertising and can notice like weaponization of communications that aren't like this, because people, they can't even discern anymore, or what they're listening to. I don't know what they're attuning to, but it's just changing so many things. So I feel like what's happening here in the connection with nature is so important for our beloved families who, you know, like I would say, some don't even know us anymore. But this feels like family. So this here in this space feels like family. And going across town, I mean, I still feel like family, but I can't say that everyone does. I don't know that for sure. So thank you. Thank you for that poem. And thank you all for, this is not saying goodbye, just thank you all very much for being here. And I'm curious about Chantal's question that she pulled from Joseph Royale. You're all visionaries. Marina, you're a visionary, all visionaries. Why might we be here together right now at this moment?
I have a piece to throw in. I don't know if it's exactly answering the question, but it's keeps arising. And it's that the World Health Organization has recently identified social isolation and loneliness as a pandemic, as like really significant impact on health and well-being. And when we're talking about that what we're talking about, like it's being seen in different ways throughout the world as a really serious problem. And when you were talking about the school system and or getting kids out, when my son was in kindergarten, the school brought him into a trail, the same trail they went in every day, once a week, and they did a sensory awareness process. What do you feel? What do you smell? And the curriculum tag for that, like the part of the curriculum, was belonging and contributing. I'm like, wow. And so I often feel like the inhale is an act of belonging and the exhale is an act of contributing. And at a time when we're all, not all of us here, but when there's so many collectively like holding our breath and intention, like tightness, that we're cutting off that capacity to feel that flow of life moving through us, that belonging and contributing. And it's related to that global crisis of loneliness and social isolation, that pulling away from. And the collective, I think a collective sigh, collective landing is important. Or yep, my words are done now. So I'm cut off. Just sharing that piece.
I may share for a couple of minutes. First of all, thank you for this conversation and for this silence as well, because it was sort of the meditative process for me personally. And thank you, Chantal, for your idea of belonging and contributing. I remember the similar idea of coming to the centration and connection to the inner core, sort of the meditative process of inhaling love and exhaling gratitude. So, and speaking about what might bring us together today, maybe returning to the beginning of the conversation and referring to Marti, maybe we are here to share our moments of awe. And these moments of awe are in poems, in our ideas, in our conversation with ancestors, in our feelings and thoughts about our children and generations to come. And these moments of awe, and also I was thinking about connection to nature, and nature, even in the concrete and even in the big mega cities, a small dandelion in the crack of the concrete road is the ore. And the small spider's net on the bush or somewhere, is the ore. So I think that even clouds and the shape of the cloud, which looks like a lion or an elephant or anything else, it is the ore. So I think that maybe through this cherishing and appreciation of these moments of awe, and given our relatives, our children, our neighbors, this sense of awe, of these small moments, it is the act of connection with each other, with nature, with the land, and with the whole planet. So again, thank you for this conversation and for these small moments of awe.
Beautiful. What a gift, Marina. Thank you. I love that.
Thank you.
unlike some of the other hours in the Connectathon, this one can flow. We thought it might go a little longer. It can flow into the next hour, which is a flow hour, being hosted by Alexander. So I just want to, we can keep going. And I would love to invite Lucille. Lucille, you're right here, like on my screen. You were one of the first voices we heard. Would you like to share anything?
Hi. Yeah, none of you really know me, but I have a unique ability to tap into energy. And I've spent the last 20 years translating that energy into a word, into a narrative. So I've had this beautiful journey and ability to speak to the trees, speak to the rocks, speak to cities, speak to health diseases in the body and all sorts of things. And it's taken me a long time for Lucille to step aside completely, for that voice and narrative to really drop in. And I think it's only been recently, actually, I did a meditation with someone this week where I had to let go of Lucille, the witness, and even push her aside so I could really be present and hear nature, to hear the voice of nature, the resonance of nature. And yeah, so it's been quite a privilege to listen to you. But yeah, I have a very special bond with the land, and it's such a different narrative to what most people hear coming from the human mind. And yeah, it's just a shame that many of us have lost the ability to hear, which I think we all have that ability, we all have that gift. But to really quieten the noise and just bring it in and take the wisdom from that land and get advice and guidance from that land, so the land can tell us and remind us how to bring ourselves back into that alignment with our true nature. Yeah.
Around 1 a.m. where you are, Lucille. It
is. It is 1 a.m. Quite late. Ferial asked me to come talk in at 3 o'clock, and I went, oh my gosh, Ferial. She only told me yesterday. I was like, sure, I'll do it. I don't really know much about the topic, but I've spent many years tuning into resonance. So I said to Ferial, I'm not very good with conversations, because what I usually do is I tune into the resonance so I can get the frequency. And I'm a shapeshifter as well. So I usually take the energy within me and allow the energy to communicate. So I said to her, you could give me a question and I can just tune in and see what wants to emerge. And I usually just type it up because I do automatic writing. And so she only sent me the questions about, well, just before it started. I was like, okay, I'm completely unprepared, but I'll take an hour and just answer the questions. And so I have to contribute later, which I'll just be reading off what the energy wanted to communicate. So there you go. That's why I'm still awake, but I'm so glad and privileged that I'm still awake.
Thank you. Thank you. And Maurice, saw you waving. Are you waving goodbye to us?
No, I'm waving an agreement, because the ancestors are frequencies. and they resonate through the water, through the trees, and the ancestors are in the rocks, and they take up residence. All we have to do is listen. And when we begin to hear the messages, we're able to share the lessons. And the importance of sharing the lessons in community, in systems, is paramount. So I'm waving like I can't control myself. It's just accurate.
There is something about community too. Just quickly, Chantal and I, we were at a conference last year on two-eyed seeing and building ethical space in the northern shore of Lake Erie, which is, you know, like a completely different world as crossed by the border. And it was the most beautiful experience. You know, I heard described like earlier how that can be just like a very difficult conversation, and maybe it can be holding different worldviews and having a conversation. But I can tell you, it is transformative to be in cultures and communities that do this. We don't all have to know the same thing, agree with the same thing, but there is something about the ability to listen, to just listen to each other. And as someone who had a career in communications and not realizing just a few years ago how important listening is, it's kind of funny. So, but it's just it changes everything, doesn't it?